Now, speculation is swirling online after a story about a group of fishermen's freaky experiences in the South Downs. Now I'm back, I'd like to get to the bottom of it. I'm joined now by a woman who follows cases like these professionally, cryptid and paranormal investigator, Deborah Hatswell. Deborah, a very good evening to you. Welcome to the Independent Republic of Mike Graham. This is a fascinating story, this.
It is a fascinating story, Mike. Unfortunately, it was taken out of context and reported incorrectly in the Daily Star. The gentleman himself never saw a creature at any point. He's had some really frightening experiences.
Right.
But there are lots of witnesses to the British Bigfoot in the UK.
Yes. Well, while we look at some pictures, just tell us about, you know, the numbers of these kind of sightings, because it's one of those strange mysteries of the world that we'll never perhaps ever solve, that, you know, in almost all parts of the world, there are sightings like these. And it's, I mean, I'm one of those people that says to people who doubt it, or doubt that it's a creature, or think that it's some kind of guy in a suit. You know, we know so little about so many parts of this world where things could live and where creatures could quite happily coexist with other creatures, that, you know, for people to just go, oh, that's just rubbish, it couldn't possibly be true, I think they're in the wrong there, aren't they?
I would agree. I mean, some of my witnesses are in the army, some of them are lawyers, police officers, paramedics, a number of teachers, very erudite people in the UK see these creatures often and all across the world.
Right. And in terms of what you do, I mean, are you able to sort of look at these pictures and delineate which of them are more likely to be genuine, or have you got a way of kind of analysing them to see what it is that you're looking at?
Well, we have experts that are happy to do it on a volunteer basis. So anything that comes in, a hair sample, a footprint, a photograph or a video, I will send that off to the experts and they'll do the analysis on it. I work with the victims, so they would come forward to me. I sit down with them and hear their story and go out to the area with them where the account happened so we can get a size comparison.
Right.
And we can see the witness talking about the encounter at the actual place where it happened. Some of them have some trauma from the event. As you can imagine, seeing an 8-foot hairy creature is not something that everybody delights in. No. And then I kind of work with them on that trauma to get them back out into the countryside again, like the fisherman. Right. Who doesn't want to go fishing again after his experience.
So can you tell us a little bit about his experience? Tell us what happened to him and what he told you.
He was fishing, night fishing, typical, and he was hearing something at the back of his bivvy. And that's quite common in the reports that come in.
So he was fishing, he was on land with his rod somewhere in the river?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what he was doing. And he could hear something running about behind him. Right. And that feeling that people often report in the woodlands of being watched, as if something's watching them from the woodline. He's had a number of paranormal reports throughout his life experiences, I should say. And some of the images that you're showing now are actually picked by the witnesses themselves, or actually drawn by the witnesses themselves to explain what they've seen. It's a good way of trying to show somebody, actually. For me, I was 15. And nobody believed me, so I sat down with this image with a police artist, and I came up with that. That's what I saw in an ordinary town in Manchester, believe it or not. But 7 other people since then have come forward and they explain that they've seen him as well.
Right. And how long ago was that? When you were? Well, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't want to say you to be specific. When you were 15, but you know, so you saw that creature in Manchester.
Yeah, in 1982. I'm 57 now, Mike. And I've been researching since the moment I went home.
Wow.
I wanted to know what it was. Was it, was it a time slip? Was he a ghost? Was he a caveman of some kind?
Right.
Nothing out there for me. Nothing really. I didn't discover the American Bigfoot until I was in my 20s. So it wasn't something I'd known about. But as I say, that there's 8 other people have come forward now, last sighting being in 2021.
Yeah.
And often when I release it, somebody will put on Facebook or YouTube, I remember that tale from that town, but the man who saw it. So lots of the locals have heard it.
And I used to do an overnight radio show, and a lot of people used to call in and tell me stories about things that they'd seen, and some of them were alien-related, some of them were like you, sort of Sasquatch-related. And people would always ask the question, the people who doubt these stories would always say, oh, but surely everybody's got a phone now, why doesn't anyone take a picture? But, I mean, I suppose that's not an easy question to answer, is it?
It's not, but one of the photos you shown them was from Carbon in Ireland, and that was taken in Let me just get the date correct for you. That was taken in June of 2023 by a man called Billy Morgan. He was actually out in the woodlands walking in Carvin, and he found some strange structures. And he took photographs of the structures themselves. He went back home, showed them to his daughter, and his daughter pointed out, "What's that?" And it looks like a head and shoulders that's looking at him from the woodland. And this image that you've got up now. So if your viewers can look between the two tall trees, you can see a strange anomaly there. Yeah. So what we would do, that went out.
That is spooky.
Yeah, that went out to the investigators and the analysis, and it hadn't been tampered with in any way. It's a legitimate photograph, but we don't know what that anomaly is. We can't say it's a Bigfoot for certain.
Okay. And do you think, as a result of all these things that you've seen, that there is a specific kind of creature, if you like, that might exist in lots of different parts of the world that is some kind of missing link or something like that?
I do. That's my personal opinion. I believe that it's somewhere down the hominid line, maybe possibly a cousin or a brother. In the same way that monkeys and apes and lemurs and chimps, we're all kind of genetically linked. And yes, the missing link is great for me. I often look at Heidelbergensis because he was in the UK all those many thousands of years ago. Could it be an offshoot in some way? You know, there are many theories as to what they are.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. Well, listen, Deborah, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. And I suppose we shouldn't be that surprised that the Daily Star got a couple of things wrong when they reported the story.
Not at all. It wouldn't be the first time.
They do keep us entertained, though, but thank you very much indeed. Deborah Hatswell there, cryptid and paranormal investigator. I mean, you know, some of this stuff is pretty amazing. And as I say, I've spent a long time talking to people about some of this stuff. And if you think that there is no such thing as, you know, strange creatures or maybe even aliens, then I think if you're able to write that off, then you must have a very closed mind, I'm afraid.